3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash. Here is today's comic. Joining me, as always, is Stan the Man, comics legend, godfather of comics. Stan, you are a lifesaver. Today I had another early day, and I have been dragging ass, but Monster Energy Zero Ultra. I love this modern term. This sounds like anime or something. Zero Ultra. Joining me, as always, also is our channel mascot, all-around friend, intern, expert on all things trash. He's just getting more titles every single day. That's Forky. And if you don't know why Forky's here, it's because you don't watch my other episodes, and shame on you. I've talked about him in the past. This is Batman Superman. It is by Joshua Williamson. I don't know these other guys. Marquez. I don't know his first name. Sanchez. A lot of Hispanic names. I was really annoyed with this cover. I kind of knew it was coming, but I forgot about it. This is a 2-part cover. So as you can see, it's half. The other half of the cover has the other half of the Batman Who Laughs face. And it's also got another picture. It's got Superman with Batman in the background. It looks really freaking cool when they were side by side on the bookshelf or the shelf in the comic store. But I hate this tactic. It's so predatory, right? It's bad enough you're having alternate covers, which I'm against. I don't really like the alternate covers. I tolerate them on milestone issues, and no, number one kind of is a milestone issue. But when you're doing these like dual part covers, you're really like pressuring the audience or the buyer to buy multiple. And it's one thing to just say, hey, here's some other options if you want to buy them. Do it. I guess I don't get it, but when you do this now, every time I look at this cover, I know it's half a cover, and it annoys the crap out of me. But what am I gonna do? Oh, you said this is a digital cover, and I can just get the other cover, and I can. That's true. I can digitally, but I do have the physical comic too, and that's what I'm talking about. Here's the other cover right here. Oh, look, I got both covers. Oh no. So this is what the other one looks like. I didn't even know it was here. See, this is the first time I'm even looking at my digital copy here. And that's what it looks like all together. That's pretty cool that I got this. See, but I would like this in my books. Anyways, it kind of actually makes me feel better that I don't have them physically now, because it reinforces how much I actually don't need them. Hey, look, it's Scary Face, a.k.a. Leviathan. AKA Bendis just took an organization and turned it into a character. And because he does that, he changes. That's what Bendis does. His MO, I've discovered it. I don't know why it took me this long. Bendis's MO is to take whatever he's doing and flip it on its head. I'm doing Spider-Man. I'm actually making him black. Like, okay, that's where it started. I'm doing Superman. And I'm actually going to break up his marriage. And I'm going to age up his son. And I'm going to move the Fortress of Solitude. And I'm going to turn Lois into a super spy. And everything. He changes everything. Oh, Leviathan. Remember when it was that secret organization that Silencer worked for before the book got canceled? Yeah, actually, it's actually a person. Presumably a dude. This looks like a dude, that bicep. I had a theory that it was a girl. There's some shots here. Anyway, she didn't come here to talk about that. The Daily Planet. Batman saves Gotham. All right, I'm going too far. I haven't even read this book yet. I'm sitting here getting all excited into it. My whole point was I'm going to sit down with my boys here. I'm going to read this book, Batman Superman, issue 1, and then we're going to talk about it, because that's what we do here on this channel. Thanks for putting up with me this far. It's less than 5 minutes in. Don't go away. Don't go away. I know you could pop some Ritalin or something, and we'll talk about this book. This is an exciting book. I'm excited. I hope it doesn't bomb. Cross our fingers. That's as much as I can cross my fingers. I suck. In case you're wondering, what music I decided to pair this book with should be pretty obvious. Right? The Batman Superman soundtrack. Say what you will about the film, Hans Zimmer's score is epic. Works really well, pretty obvious, and It worked well with this book. This is a Superman theme right now. Let's get on with the show, not get copyright strike. Leviathan. Oh, here we go. Daily Planet. Batman saves Gotham. What's your dark secret? Ease up, Grant. Olsen's only secret is that blind luck pays off. I don't buy it, Perry. How did Jimmy Olsen get a picture of the bat? Oh, you know. Got a tip from an old buddy of mine. I love this picture of Clark pushing up his glasses. Superman. Ah, darn it. There's a situation at the Justice League satellite. You're needed immediately. From the moment we met, it was clear that Batman and I didn't see eye to eye. That Batman is just a myth to sell papers in Gotham anyway. Isn't that right, Kent? Kent? But over time, we learned that there are some things we always agree on. For one, we would never give in to the devil on our shoulder and hurt our enemies the way they hurt us. If we act like them, we become them. He worries too much. On my way, Bruce. What's wrong? Hurry, Clark. Get here now. Your voice, you sound different. Do I? I hadn't noticed. Is that another way I seem foolish to you? Small? And you start seeing these, you're like wondering, what the heck's this going on? My parents were murdered in an everyday crime in a dark alley, while you lost your whole world. Billions don't die every day, do they? The rich boys play dress up while you're can't even read right. While you're our alien savior. There is nothing that says we should be allies. What are you talking about? You're a great ally and a great partner. A great friend. No. Look at this page reveal. This was great. The air is filled with a kryptonite-infused gas. You were dead the moment you entered the satellite. Your world won't let you escape, will it? Now your home is with you, in your lungs, in your blood. Why? Because I wondered what would happen if you were like me. What is the worst version of the Man of Steel? Would we make an impossible team? Would anyone be able to stop us from becoming killers of the multiverse? Fun questions. But I know our story always ends with us fighting to the death. So I decided to do what I always do. Plan ahead. He's the Batman who laughs. And here we get the backstory explaining who he is, which you should probably know if you've read Metal and the Batman Who Laughs miniseries that leads up to this. This is a direct continuation of that story. If you have not read those, I think you can still enjoy this. But really, I think Metal is worth your time. You don't have to necessarily go and read all the side tie-in issues. I would for sure read the main Metal series, which is 6 issues. I would then recommend the Metal individual one-shots that are the different Batman, like the, they could have the Flash version of Batman, the Green Lantern one. Those are some pretty fun stories, and they're all one-shots, and they explain. It's a cool story about how that particular Batman went wrong, because all these Batman from the Dark Multiverse, if you're not aware, they start off just like the Batman of Earth Zero, and then something happened to cause him to go bad. And those stories I find very interesting, but they're not necessary for the plot. So you can just read the Metal, read the Batman Who Laughs. Snyder, I can't even say. Snyder told a really fun, exciting story about Batman versus essentially his ultimate enemy, the Batman Who Laughs. And he upped the ante by saying, I'm not going to just have Batman versus Batman. I'm also going to throw in the Grim Knight, who we haven't seen before, who is essentially what if the Batman became the Punisher. He's also in there. And I'm also going to throw in the Joker to really up the stakes for Batman. And that's the kind of stories we don't get much of, right? Where the hero's fighting insurmountable odds. I recommend it. That book pretty much leads into this story where we have here and now Earth Zero now. So in case it wasn't obvious, what we just saw here, and it threw me off a little bit too. I was like, wait, what's going on? This is the Batman Who Laughs origin, essentially. Retold a little bit. This is not our world. Notice no trunks on Superman. So this is the dark multiverse world before the Batman Who Laughs killed Superman. So we get here. He escaped to our world last year and has been lying in wait, plotting a new nightmare for us all. Gotham City. First he came after me, tried to change me, to prove his twisted point that I would only be happy once I was just like him. See the Batman Who Laughs 1 through 7. So that's that story. But he was after more than just me. He wanted to change all of Gotham. I stopped his plan, but there was a serum. He could have used it to infect others. And Gordon's like, I know all this. What are you doing? He's like, I wasn't talking to you. And then that's where Superman shows up. Who Are the Secret Six? By Josh Williamson, David Marquez, artist, Alejandro Sanchez, the colorist. Now, I have to say, I really liked this issue. It's very solid. Really like the art. I'm not really familiar with this artist. I probably have seen his work before, but I really enjoyed the line work. The inking is solid. It's real crisp. Just look at this small little panel of Superman, and it's so detailed on the facial expressions. It almost has a Clayman type quality, but I liked the art in this book. It's fantastic. Look at this sort of like, not necessarily a lens flare, but a glare, from the lamp of the light, the whatever you call it, the bat spotlight. So this whole book serves to put Batman and Superman together, right? You have to have some sort of plot device. You have to have a reason. Why are these two working together? And it's kind of a stretch normally. Like, I've always strayed away from Batman Superman stories because I was just like, it just seems contrived. Why are these guys live in different worlds? But now that I've been more diving into DC, becoming more of a DC fan, reading Justice League, getting more accustomed to Batman running around with these, high-level superheroes, seeing how Snyder handles it. I love how Snyder puts Batman and Superman together. He has elevated them both to me by making them this sort of like this duo, and there's this sort of friendship and mutual respect between the two. Oh, and one of my favorite scenes in Metal, where Batman is actually, for one of the rare times, looking at Superman out of respect. Usually Batman's the guy who's, calling Superman a Boy Scout and kind of disrespecting him and stuff, but Batman, seeing how their mutual respect and how they admire each other for being different than the other, you got to read it. It's really good. Josh Williamson writes The Flash. Currently, he's been writing it this whole time, over 50 issues, and he writes Birthright, which is an Image comic. It's a fantasy, so good. So I was very excited to get this book, and I was not let down. So they're on the run. Superman's just like, what's the real story? What's going on? And Batman's like, if I were ever out of control, like the Batman Who Laughs, what would you do to stop me? I don't think like that. You're saying you don't think like me. No one thinks like you. This is it. So they reach Crime Alley, and the whole purpose, they're trying to find the Batman Who Laughs Batcave. Some defense robot things show up. Batman explains that the Batman Who Laughs wanted to be left alone, yada yada. And here we get this really cool look of the Batman Who Laughs Batcave. And this sort of stuff is really underutilized in a lot of comics. It's the fault of modern writers and modern artists. The fault of a modern writer who doesn't understand visual, how important this medium is as a visual. A lot of modern writers, they write like prose, but they don't really write like prose, but they write from that mindset. They don't think about writing, directing imagery, right? And so oftentimes the artist is left to kind of fill in those gaps. The good writers do, and here Josh Williamson certainly does. And the other thing is, you have to have faith in your artist to be able to deliver the visual storytelling that you're trying to show. So I can imagine in the script saying, we have a wide shot of the Batcave, the Batman Who Laughs or whatever, and Marquez just delivers in spades. I don't know if I could probably blow this up so you can get some better detail of just all this cool stuff. And it's so fun to just take your time reading a book you enjoy and pore over some of the details of the art. And they show up. This is his Batcave. Where did you get your information on this other Batman? He told me himself. When I was a rookie at the Daily Planet, Perry used to always tell me to always consider your source. So they're looking for this missing kid, Danny. And they come across these batarangs. Bruce puts together that there's some serum missing, nth metal, and they realize, okay, the 6 batarangs could be used to infect other people. And this, of course, is the plot device or part of the plot device of Year of the Villain. There's going to be 6 infected DC characters. I'm not real big on this plot device. They come across this chessboard, which is at a stalemate. And as soon as Clark moves the piece, this little image pops up, and it shows the entire Justice League. Everyone's infected. And Bruce puts together this idea as it's meant to build distrust. Now they can't trust anyone, which I think is really weird because the whole thing about when Bruce was infected in Batman Who Laughs 1 through 7, spoiler alert, Bruce gets infected with the same thing that made the Batman Who Laughs. He can't control himself always. He's laughing and it's kind of obvious. It's one of those things that you can't really remain hidden, I don't think. But maybe, I don't know. So then one of the Robins, the evil Robins, they're called Crows, shows up. This is a really cool sequence. Look at this. It's just hops on Bruce ah! And we panel down and we get the overhead shot, tossing him over. And this really cool dynamic action. You get the apex of the shot here. This is crucial in how to draw comic books, right? You always draw the apex of the action, not the beginning of the throw, not the middle. It's where the action peaks, because your mind, as you're reading, can subconsciously fill in the blanks, and you'll start to imagine the motion and feel. And this popping out of the panel makes it feel like it's coming towards you. Really skilled stuff here. And then we see I love this shot here, the crow kind of cowering in the light. He took me from my family, hit me with a batarang. So just like Bruce expected. And then, Superman's like, what don't you understand? I'm glad he took me, freed me. Don't you recognize me? And then just Superman's like, oh no. My name's Billy Batson. And you're just like, oh no. Shazam! And we get this really cool narration from Batman. Superman and I have an ongoing debate about what would happen if we were to use the same tactics as our enemies. It always ends the same. I tell him my concerns, and he smiles and says, I worry too much. But the thing that always scared me was this. If heroes ever started to act like our enemies, we'd be better villains than they ever were. I always wondered if I could kick your ass, Superman. Next, the Shazam Who Laughs. Now, I'm a little iffy on the whole Shazam Who Laughs. But let me put that on pause for a second. This book was really fun. This book was how to do comics 101. Great art, great storytelling. A long story, you can tell that this is going to build over multiple issues, but yet the singular issue feels satisfying. We get the little investigation, we get the character introductions to each other, some, a little bit of a plot, and we get left with this cliffhanger, and it leaves you wanting more. You feel like you got some satisfaction of a story, and you feel like I'm ready for more, give me more, and then you gotta wait, and that wait builds the anticipation. So when you get the next issue, hopefully it's just as good. And so that anticipation pays off, and that cycle continues. And that is something that every real comic fan that's ever experienced what it's like to enjoy quality comics knows, and why we like mainstream either DC or Marvel comics. Okay, so that said, this is a solid book. Definitely worth a read if you like Batman or Superman. If you like the Snyder style, Josh Williamson echoes it pretty well. He's pretty faithful. In far as how he portrays Batman and Superman's relationship, the art here you can see for yourself is really well done. Yes, it's not a phenomenal comic book. I'm not going to say it's 5 stars. It'd be hyperbolic, but it's easily 4-star book. Easily, like, this is a recommend. Now, the things I don't like about this book. Number one, I don't like the who laughs bit being used up. I already fear like Batman who laughs is getting overplayed, and now we're gonna have 6 other villains who laugh. That's just it's overdoing it. It reminds me back in the day when Marvel was going symbiote crazy. It's like, oh, you like Venom? Have Carnage. Oh my God, you like Carnage? Have more symbiotes. Everyone gets a symbiote. You get a symbiote. You get a symbiote. You know, like it bothered me. So I worry about that. Also, it contradicts my interpretation of Metal. In my understanding of the Metal storyline, there were these dark universe multiverses that are out there. And then there was this great godlike being whose purpose was to use this cosmic forge device and take these dark multiverses, which were decaying from entropy, and essentially recycle them. It's a sort of universal recycler. The dark multiverses were failed, and they were imperfect products, if you will, if you think of it that way, and they just needed to be scrubbed. And there was this being called the Dragon. That spoiler ended up being Hawkman, or a version of Hawkman, and that being was sort of wielded the hammer on the forge. But the problem was that that God creature was missing, and so these multiverses weren't getting recycled, and they were just decaying, and all the inherent corruption of them was causing things to go awry, like the superheroes to themselves to become corruptible, and it was a place of nightmares. And it wasn't ever supposed to exist, but because of that breakdown, like I just talked about, allowed it to, which I enjoyed that. I thought that was a really cool idea, and a way to explain how can Superman fail, how can Batman fail, how can these guys go corrupt and not be the heroes that we know and love, how can they go evil? Well, I never want to see Superman go evil, right? I never want to see Captain America be a Nazi, those sort of things. But when you create this new mythos of this dark multiverse where the universe itself is been poisoned and corrupt and it's just failing, it's all broken down, then it makes sense that the characters in that multiverse are broken and failing. And I like that. That was a really cool idea. What I don't like is that you bring that into Earth Zero, which is the prime multiverse, the one that's functioning as it should, and then you start entering the breakdown there. That doesn't make sense to me as much. I don't know if I just misinterpreted Metal or if some changes were made. I just don't like this version. I don't like this idea that anyone can just be corrupted with a serum. It's just it's kind of gimmicky. I would much rather have hoped the story would have been more interesting to me, and I was hoping it would have been this way, was this isn't the Shazam that we know. This would have been more interesting to me as if the Batman Who Laughs had gone back to that dark multiverse and brought his Shazam into it, much like in the Metal event. He brought those Batmen with him. And that maybe he captured the original, that guy's, or maybe they switched places. And so that Shazam is now off in the dark multiverse fighting for his life. That could be so now you've got 2 possible stories you could utilize, but you don't reveal that right away. You show this story, and then once you resolve all this, we got rid of the evil Shazam, but where's the real Shazam? Oh no, he's in the dark multiverse. So then you go, meanwhile, and now you go and tell that story of how he survived. Man, I'm just some YouTube guy. I'm just a comic fan, and I feel like these are things that people like Dan Didio, who make way too much money for way too much ineptitude, should be thinking themselves. Anyways, so I don't want to harp too much. I can go on and on about the failures of DC, but credit needs to be given where credit is due. This is a good book. Batman, Superman. If you like these characters, if you don't like that the Trinity is failing you right now, with the main books, the two Bendis Superman books, the Tom King Batman book, and the G. Williamson Wonder Woman book. Well, you don't get Wonder Woman here, but if you don't like the Batman Superman, they're failing. I mean, you still have Detective Comics, and Detective Comics is good, but you don't have any outs with Superman other than Justice League, which Justice League is good. Now you can get your Batman and Superman with a quality writer, with an interesting storyline, with great art. This is a book. Drop Batman. I hear so many people talking and bitching about how shitty Batman is, but then they keep buying it and they don't buy Detective Comics. And it's like, well, the reason why the problem with the industry is partly because of you. You're part of the problem. DC's not getting the message. Buy the good stuff. Stop buying the bad stuff. That's how things will change. And also, you'll enjoy yourself. You'll have enthusiasm again. I really like this book. I cannot wait for the next one. I'm really glad that Josh lived up to my expectations. And I hope you'll check it out. If you have, like and subscribe. Well, like and subscribe anyway, please. But tell me down below. This is a conversation. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm some master of comics, know-it-all. I'm a guy like you. I love comics. I have some experience and some knowledge over the years. And I have my own perspective. And hopefully you find that somewhat interesting. And until then, I'm Ash. This is Stan. This is Forky. You're watching Ash on Comics. And I really appreciate every single view. Thanks for watching.